What's going on, everybody? Josh Engleman for Awesemo.com, and I am back with my NBA DFS contenders on FanDuel for Tuesday, May 11th. Now be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all of our other content goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman so you can get updates to these sim results as we get closer to lock. And finally, let me know in the comments section who is your favorite and least favorite of my contenders for today's slate. We are rounding out the bottom of my top 10 with Ben Simmons, Paul George, Joel Embiid, Isaiah Stewart, and SADDIQ Bey on the outside looking in. Who will be my favorites? My top 5 plays for today? It's time to find out. First up, the first of many Toronto Raptors. At number 5, we've got Stanley Johnson. He is small forward eligible, projected for 25 fantasy points. The goal's 31 because he is the flat minimum today. 24% likelihood of being in the optimal lineup. Here's where it gets crazy. No Kyle Lowry, no Fred VanVleet, no OG Anunoby, no Pascal Siakam. Toronto's sitting everybody. I think right now they only have 8 active bodies. It could be 9. Aaron Baines hasn't played in well north of a month. He would be the 9th. But for right now, I'm projecting 8 guys in for the Raptors. I've got Stanley Johnson playing 32 minutes. Basically around 0.8 fantasy points per minute. Below average usage, 17% in fact. 10 points, 4.5 boards, 3.5 assists, a steal and a half. And it's a pace down spot against the Clippers. But minutes are there. And this is going to be the key theme for right now. I expect additional value to come out in droves throughout this slate. But for right now, the Raptors are the only team that has scorched the earth for everybody that's on their roster. If Stanley Johnson's playing 30 minutes, at the flat minimum at small forward, he's going to be unquestionably a popular value play, and you will have to look at him. No Raptor for this one, though. Small forward eligible Michael Porter Jr. is the number 4 contender for today. He is 7,100, projected for 38. The goal's 45. He's in the optimal lineup 24% of the time. Porter Jr. has been fantastic as of late. I've got him at 1.06 fantasy points per minute with 36 minutes today. That's a really nice projection for a $7,100 small forward. 24% usage, 23 real points, 7 boards, and very little else. An assist, a steal, a block. It's a pace down spot against Charlotte, but Michael Porter Jr. is not at all worried about the Charlotte Hornets. It's just a really nice spot for him in terms of minutes. The salary is massively, massively too low. It's significantly higher priced on DraftKings. 7,100 at a small forward spot on a slate like today. This is a spot that I am definitely going. I love MPJ today. Back to the Raptors here. Shooting guard eligible YUTA Watanabe coming in at number 3. He is also the flat minimum. Projected for 26. The goal's 31. He's in the optimal lineup 26% of the time. Everything that I just said for Stanley Johnson is the same for Watanabe. But he's like a 0.85 to 0.9 fantasy point per minute guy. I've got him in for 30 minutes. Below average usage, but we're talking 12 points, 6 boards, 2 assists, maybe a steal. Again, tough matchup against the Clippers. Would you guys be surprised if the Clippers rested a couple guys? Because I certainly wouldn't. They rest them when the games aren't even crazy. Watanabe at the flat minimum. Stanley Johnson at the flat minimum. These are guys you can't avoid because they're going to play, I would assume, north of 26 minutes at the very least, potentially into the mid-30s if things are going correctly. So I've got Watanabe slightly ahead of Stanley Johnson, but we're not done with Raptors. Next up at number 2, we're still at that shooting guard spot, and we're going to Gary Trent. He's 4,900, projected for 31.5. The goal's 36.5. He's in the optimal lineup 29% of the time. Now, Trent is one of the few guys remaining on the Raptors that is going to have a relatively high usage rate. I've got him in for 25% today in 36 minutes. I've got him at 0.88 fantasy points per minute. This is the guy that's going to probably run most of the show, both he and FLYNN at the very least. 21.5 real points, and then very little else. 3 boards, 2 assists, a steal. But what you're getting here is Gary Trent Jr. looking for his shot. And that could be a lot of shots over the course of 36 minutes. I trust Trent more than I trust anybody else on the Raptors just because we know what we're getting out of Gary Trent. The Stanley Johnsons and YUTA Watanabes of the world, those guys scare me. Trent, he doesn't. Now, before we get to that number 1 contender, one last reminder, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Then, head on over to Twitter and follow me, at Josh Engleman, so you can get updates to these sim results as we get closer to lock. And finally, let me know in the comment section who is your favorite and least favorite of my contenders for today's slate. And if you want, Who's the guy that you thought was going to be on this contenders list that you do not see? We're closing it out with one final Raptor. That would be point guard Malachi Flynn. He's 5K, projected for 33.5. The goal is 37, and he is in the optimal lineup 34% of the time. Flynn should run the point guard because there aren't any other point guards left on the team. So I gave him 34 minutes. It wouldn't even surprise me if he played a little bit more. 0.99 fantasy points per minute is where I have him. That's 22% usage, 15.5 points, 6.5 assists, and 4 boards, plus a steal. That same matchup against the Clippers, but what do you want to do? 4 of my top 5 plays for right now are Toronto Raptors. I would assume that we see more value in the sub 4K range come out throughout the day. As that happens, Watanabe, Stanley Johnson, those guys will fall a bit. I expect Malachi Flynn and Gary Trent to stay near the top all day. It's going to be a bloodbath, 11 games, some teams with very little or nothing to play for. Get ready, it's going to be a hell of a ride. But for right now, Malachi Flynn is at the top of the heap, the #1 contender. Alrighty, folks, that will do it. Those are my NBA DFS contenders on FanDuel for Tuesday, May 11th. Process show is in the books. Go watch that. We went the full 90 minutes. Strategy show at 10 a.m. with Lofty breaking it all down once again. DraftKings version of this video is around here somewhere. Keep your eyes peeled for PGA contenders, for Preakness contenders. I think it's the Preakness. Whatever the second race is. I think it's the Preakness. We haven't recorded it yet. I'll know by that point. Look, I'm just steering that ship. That's the Ben Razza show. I promise you that. Then I will be back tonight, live before lock. It's going to be important. The amount of news that we get from 6 to 7 is going to be crazy. You do not want to miss it. So good luck tonight, everybody. And I will be back again tomorrow morning with another edition of the Contenders.